Today, we're beachfront bargain hunting Puerto Rico's lush island of Vieques. Best known for its bioluminescent bay, Vieques is a traveler's paradise with undeveloped land and tropical Caribbean beaches. Here, beachfront home prices sell for up to $2 million. But we're searching this coastline for a beach retreat all for under $350,000.
Hello everyone, welcome to NeoUnrealist. Following Alexandria OcasioCortez's account on Twitter so that you don't have to, it has the unfortunate side effect that some of her retweets are going to pop up on my Twitter feed. Now, today I had the misfortune of having to view this beauty from Representative Nydia Velazquez of New York's 7th Congressional District. She starts off right off the bat saying for years the Navy used Vieques for military training, dropping explosives resulting in enormous cancer rates. You know, I'm guessing at least some of you have no idea what she's talking about, so I'll just have to go into it briefly. As you saw there in that brief introductory clip from an episode of Bargain Hunt from 2015, so not that long ago, 4 years ago, Vieques is a tiny island about twice the size of Manhattan. It's about 8 miles east of Puerto Rico. And that first bit that Velazquez said, that's absolutely true. The U.S. Navy did use portions of the island for military training, live fire training, you know, for like dropping explosives from the air or naval bombardment. You know, just as the military has used parts of just about all 50 states of the continental United States, Alaska, and Hawaii. So I don't know why that would keeps being brought up as something unusual. But as you saw in that opening video clip, Vieques is not some hellscape with malformed mutants from all the toxic military waste eating each other in grisly acts of cannibalism like something out of a movie to survive. You know, that last bit is complete nonsense. The cancer rates on Vieques are neither enormous, nor has any scientific link ever been established for such activity or related issues being the cause of anybody getting cancer on the island. I mean, if anything, you could call it at best speculation, you know, at worst just inconclusive. You know, she cites this dubious fact as the rationale, you know, for our quote government. The least they can do is construct a new medical facility. She cites the government having the moral responsibility to address the environmental degradation. I mean, come on. You saw the video. You know, now you see this image there of this emaciated old woman. And then you see the New York Times headline about hunger and an abandoned hospital. Though note, take a close look at that. Even the New York Times has the residual journalistic impulse to put abandoned in quotes before going on to describe Washington's bickering over Hurricane Maria aid to Puerto Rico. So right off the bat, you get the image that, oh my God, the cruel and heartless Trump administration's neglect, deliberate and malicious neglect of Puerto Rico has led to people in Vieques going hungry and on a hospital abandoned. You know, must have wrecked by the storm and just doomed by mustache-twirling politicians in Washington as they laugh along with Trump. You know, so now, I guess the federal government is going to be in the business of building hospitals, didn't you know? I mean, I live in New York City. I mean, surely, Nydia Velazquez, as a representative of one of the New York City's congressional districts, I'm wondering, where are all these federally built hospitals that? I mean, is New York City surely is as much U.S. soil as Vieques, Puerto Rico is. So where are all the federally built hospitals, that aren't part of the United States Veterans Service Hospital System? You know, someone needs to inform Congresswoman Velazquez that more than 5,000 hospitals that exist in the United States, only about 200 of them were built by and operated by the federal government. And those 200 hospitals that are operated, they're there to provide care for a specific patient population. She may have heard of them. Basically, active duty military personnel and those who are no longer active but are cared for by the Veterans Health Administration, the VA. So the federal government of the United States does not build hospitals in Vieques, Puerto Rico, for the same reason the federal government doesn't build non-military related hospitals in Texas or North Carolina or New York. They don't build hospitals except to care for the members of the armed forces and those who've left the armed forces but receive veterans benefits. But let's give Nydia Velazquez, for argument's sake, we'll ignore that reality, and we'll just look at the idea that somehow this is some situation unique to post-Hurricane Maria Vieques life. They described the hospital, in the New York Times article as out of commission, quote unquote. They used the example of dialysis patients having to travel to the Big Island of Puerto Rico 3 times a week to get treatment, for their dialysis for more than a year after the storm. Several patients died. Now remember, in the new world that the left has created, if you die in a Republican administration a year after a hurricane because you didn't get a dialysis treatment, you're now in the magic of the left, you're a storm victim. Which I guess even if you buy into that logic, that it would only make sense if it was the storm that caused the hospital to be in a dysfunctional state, right? Well, let us recall the date that Hurricane Maria hit. It was the 19th or 20th of September, 2017, yes? 2017. Let's remember that number, that year. Here's an article in the leftist magazine, The Atlantic. The date of the article, September 3rd, 2016. Over a year before Hurricane Maria happened. On September 2016, one Barack Hussein Obama was in office in the 8th year of his presidency, I might add. So, presumably, that meant Obama had 8 years to have done something to remedy what you're about to hear in this Atlantic article. September 2016, Trump had not even been elected yet. Most Democrats at that time were assuming Hillary Clinton would be the next president of the United States. The title of the article, Puerto Rico's Invisible Health Crisis. Crisis. What is this word crisis? An article calling the state of the healthcare system on Vieques a crisis before Hurricane Maria hit during the 8th and final year of Obama's presidency, before Trump had even won the election, an election that wouldn't occur for another 2 months after this article was published. What does this article have to say about healthcare on Vieques in September 2016? Back on the island, residents have virtually no access to health services. There is one hospital on Vieques, which has one emergency room, no pharmacy, and one birthing room with spotty air conditioning. Mirna Pagan, a cancer survivor from Vieques, said there are a handful of primary doctors on the island, but no specialists who can treat the growing number of patients undergoing dialysis. To receive chemotherapy, cancer patients have to travel to San Juan, an 80-mile trip over sea and land. The small, comparatively sparsely populated island is simply not equipped to keep up with the increased demand for specialized medical service. So it turns out that this dilapidated hospital in the picture for the New York Times article from 2 days ago, where they captioned it to say it remains closed with roosters and wild horse droppings littering the empty parking lot and ambulance bay, was pretty much already effectively useless and non-functioning when Obama was president of the United States, to the point where it was described as a crisis, and the Atlantic's own leftist reporter reported that Vieques residents have virtually no access to health services. Remember, here's Mirna Pagan, the woman quoted in the article, the cancer survivor, saying that there were no specialists who could treat the number of, who could even give you dialysis. You couldn't get chemotherapy. All the hospital had when it was quote-unquote open was an emergency room. It didn't have a pharmacy. All they could do was take in people with broken bones, and deliver babies. That's about it. That was it. That was the state of healthcare. So 8 years in office, and do you know why I don't blame Obama for the condition of the healthcare system on that island? Because a local hospital wasn't his job to fix. The government of Puerto Rico and San Juan either didn't deem it important enough, or was just too corrupt to spare the funds that they were stuffing their cronies' pockets with. There's only 9,000 people who live there. There were only a handful of primary doctors there, no specialists. Does anyone think you're gonna have a full hospital staffed with neurosurgeons, cardiologists, anesthesiologists, gynecologists, obstetricians, and all that to service this little fly speck in the Caribbean with only 9,000 people on it, which on top of everything else, 42% of its population is on food stamps, and only about a third of the population over the age of 16 is in the labor force. There's nothing there. It was brain-dead liberals like Nydia Velazquez who pressured the Clinton and then the Bush administration to close the bombing range on the east tip of the island and thus invalidate the need to even have a military presence there. The military ceased its training and live-fire exercises on Vieques in 2003 by order of the Bush administration, and with no activity there anymore, the naval base on the Puerto Rican mainland, Roosevelt Station, it was closed the next year in 2004. 6,000 jobs were lost in the region, $300 million a year from the local economy. Many of the businesses that cater to the 3,000 or so military personnel and contractors who were stationed in and around the area, the bars, the car mechanic shops, the movie theaters, the laundromats, all that stuff, providing, jobs for the locals, they closed. So you had the knock-on effect of a number of people from the local population, in addition to the military packing up and leaving, they also packed up and moved to other parts of Puerto Rico or elsewhere seeking better economic opportunities. There's really only three things you can do on Vieques now to earn a living. Work in the tourism industry, grow stuff on a small farm, or go fish. So, waiting tables in a restaurant, cleaning rooms for hotel guests, honorable work, not putting it down, but it's not exactly going to lead to a comfortable middle-class life. More or less, Nydia Velazquez and her famous and well-connected friends, all her Hollywood actors and politicians and the Al Sharptons of the world, they destroyed Vieques for the local population 20 years ago. The place itself, Vieques, that she would have you, if you just listen to her, that it's something out of a Mad Max movie, is actually considered to have some of the best beaches in the world due to because of the fact that there was no development there while the military controlled most of the island. You couldn't do anything. So the beaches are pretty much unspoiled paradises with lots of privacy because, every square foot of the space, on the beachfront of the island doesn't have big luxury hotels sprawling anywhere. There's only one hotel of any significance on the island. I think that's the W Hotel, which ironically is still closed because of the storm damage. But the irony here is that what Nydia Velazquez and the people like her have done is pretty much turn Vieques' future, away from the local population and over to white mainland Americans.
Many Americans are looking to pick up and start a new life.
And one spot that is very affordable is Vieques. We just spent some time there.
We're finding that a lot of baby boomers are starting to purchase properties here and come like snowbirds, and that's I think instead of Florida, I think I'd rather be here than Florida or South. Sorry, Florida. but yeah, it's nice, and then it's almost like you see the same people in the winter. It's like everybody's coming home, and you go out places, and it's like hey. So it's nice because it is a small town atmosphere too.
Most of the tourist businesses that do exist there now are owned by quote-unquote Yankees from the U.S. mainland, and from what I gather. The bars, the restaurants, the one hotel I mentioned on the island, the W, the one that's still close to the hurricane damage. But what's happened is, you've had an influx of real estate investors. They've come to Vieques from the U.S., and they've bought the land and built very large and luxurious houses there. Houses that a lot of them, they use as secondary part-time residences, so they don't, in a lot of cases, they don't even live there most of the year. And the rest of the time they rent it out to vacationers and tourists. A lot of big Airbnb business is going on down there. Now, from what I could tell, it's gotten to the point where there's a lot of friction as more and more people from the United States mainland move there, buy land, start businesses, that they're driving up local real estate prices. You know, the classic gentrification argument. Now, I think it's ironic that as, you know, the native Vieques residents, they age. Unfortunately, you know, they die off, as it's mostly an older population there, you know, with no jobs. You know, many of the young people, many of the people in the young generations, people still in their prime earning years, they've either left already or they leave when they're old enough and can get their shit together. Because, you know, with each passing year, if current trends hold up, in a few decades, there may be more Americans from the mainland owning property and businesses in Vieques than native Puerto Ricans who were born in Puerto Rico. There's even this bizarre phenomenon of hipster lefties showing up, buying plots of land, and starting organic farms there. I mean, the irony is that the place that if you knew nothing about it and just went by the Nydia Velazquez and AOCs of the world, that it must, hey, that the government must have turned this place into a blighted wasteland. It's actually considered a paradise by many of the so-called Yankee mainlanders that are moving there. One of the few instances, I think, of population replacement that I'm guessing that the left doesn't like. That's all for this NeoUnrealist. Like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell if you want to keep up with the new content. You want to go above and beyond to help the channel out, you can throw your hard-earned dollars, your denarii, your shekels, your yuan at the link to Patreon below. PayPal if you prefer a more direct route. There's also a Subscribe link for you Patreon refugees who fled over there. Now, for you BitChute viewers, there's also the green tip/pledge button below the player. That's the end of this video, and to those of you still paying attention at this point, thanks for watching.